All right, this is something that I see all the time, and this is a mistake that is so easy to avoid. Now, when working with students in my online TIG welding program, this is a habit that's actually really common at first with people. But if somebody knows to be aware of this one, or if I can help somebody get rid of this pesky little habit, they're gonna get better consistency and better looking results. Okay, so here is what I'm talking about. This here is an example of what I see, usually when somebody goes through one of the first exercises in my online program. So do you see what's going on here? Taking a look at this photo here, we see a decent start, as well as some good consistency of different things going on. But what happens is they start to travel across the length of the pass. You see how we're starting to lose consistency, and by the end, things look completely different than they did at the start. It's all good, this is super common. And this is caused by a bad habit that's actually really easy to fix, providing you know about it. So looking at it again, what's the reason that things went south here? Again, we have a great start, but as we start to move along, the details that we worked so hard to establish at the beginning have now completely changed, and by the end, things look super different. Essentially what we're looking at here is somebody getting uncomfortable as they travel along, as they move from the beginning of the pass to the end of it. Once again, when getting set up, the beginning of the pass is going to be the most comfortable spot, and as they start to reach the areas where they are now losing comfort, these variables are going to change drastically. Now let's figure out what's going to be an easy fix to take care of this. Now we're going to play a game. I want you to take a look at this one here. Now obviously this one looks pretty good, but what is the main differences between the first one, look at it here again, and now looking at the second one? What is the main difference between these two? This is a tricky one. If you're feeling brave, pause this video, put your answer in the comments below. This is a fun one. I'd love to see if you can pick this one out. All right, any takers? All right, here's what the difference is between the two. The first one, we can see this is all done in one big stretch. We have everything running all the way from the start, all the way to the end of the pass or the plate. Now looking at this one here, do you see it? Boom, there's the difference right there. This one now you can see has been done in two different passes. Now listen, when people get really excited about learning how to TIG weld, and we talk about this all the time on my channel, with excitement comes ambition. It's not always a bad thing, but in this case kind of is. Being ambitious can lead somebody to jumping into more difficult joints right away. We talk about how important it is to start with the basics all the time on this channel. My entire TIG welding program focuses on starting people with the right exercises. This way they can get the understanding built up from a fundamental level. So while ambition can lead people to jump into more challenging exercises before they're ready, it can also lead to stuff like we see here. I have a term, like doing a super long weld like this, that I use with my students. We call passes like this superhero passes. Essentially, we have this long distance that we have to travel. But let me ask you this question. What's the hurry? Especially when we can stop and take a look and see that the results are starting to change along the length of the weld. We need to reassess how to maintain consistency. And then we build up from there. My goal is definitely to have all my students being able to do something like this consistently from start to finish. But honestly, whether they do it in one pass or they do it in 10 passes, I don't really care. Let me ask you a question. What's more important here? Doing something in a really long pass all at once, or keeping consistency with all of the important variables that we work so hard to establish? I don't know about you, but when I started to TIG weld, there was no way I could do both of these things. I actually had a welding supervisor who was really hard on me about this subject. At the time, I was still new, I was struggling to learn, and I was feeling really pressured to keep up with a strict style of leadership? Yeah, we'll call it that. This dude was hard on me. It was not fun. He wanted me to run super long passes and keep things looking absolutely perfect from start to finish. This approach held me back for so long. Now, when I am teaching somebody, whether in person or in my online program, we are focusing on manageable tasks. We're gonna use that to develop our consistency as fast as possible. So instead of trying to run superhero passes right out of the gate, we're gonna break things into smaller, more manageable passes, doing exercises that I lay out in the program. This way we can work within our comfort zone so we can really understand these variables and get comfortable with them at the beginning. Remember, a lot of these problems come from being uncomfortable. Being comfortable and trying to work on all of these variables in a simple setting is the best way to learn. When we're working on practicing TIG welding, we really want to establish perfect starts. All of our profile and control should be developed right at the beginning of a pass, obviously before moving at all. Once we start moving, we want our weld profile to remain consistent and uniform. Managing our details like stepping distance, filler material amount, these are just variables that we can basically watch on the fly as we're welding. We should have no major work to do with establishing anything by this point. Another bonus to stopping short of losing our comfort zone is it gives us another chance to practice another stop start. Obviously, practicing more stop starts equals Getting better at your stop starts. We talk about this all the time on my channel. The start is absolutely the most important part. So why would somebody shortchange themselves by skipping over one of these opportunities to learn? After learning how to properly start, establish, and maintain a good pass, after that point when we're comfortable, we can then start to challenge ourselves by running longer passes. After familiarity is built, proper understanding of how to get what we want, doesn't it now make more sense to tackle this superhero stuff at this point? I really genuinely wish that I had a chance to learn this way. I would get so frustrated dealing with training that I did not feel was supportive at all. When somebody goes in for a practice session, they should leave that session feeling stoked and excited. Frustration is really something that I like to keep out of somebody's practice session. This is why I break things down into more manageable exercises. If anybody out there is looking to learn how to TIG weld, it is not about how long you practice. Going in and putting more hours in behind the hood is not always the best solution. When somebody goes in for a practice session, it's not about the quantity of practice. It's about the quality of practice. When I'm working with my students, I give them a clear example of exactly what to work on the next time they go in for a practice session. This way we make sure we do not waste practice material, and most importantly, your time. Like I said, every practice session should feel like a win. Nothing when learning TIG welding is gonna be easy. But focusing on specific things and breaking these down into exercises where people can easily learn these things, this is how we keep up progression as well as having fun. Learning to TIG weld should be a blast. I nearly had a lot of the fun and enjoyment of learning to TIG weld taken away from me by frustrating sessions with zero direction. Providing a clear plan of what to work on, this is something I strive to do with every one of my students. Watch this episode here. This episode here is exactly what I look at when I break down a session from one of my students, give somebody some good feedback as well as a clear plan of what to work on next time they sit down. And I think you'll be pretty surprised with the results that this student got. This one was an absolute blast for me to watch go down. Do a random act of kindness for a stranger today. For Pacific Arc TIG Welding, my name is Dusty. Fill and chill, we will talk soon. Peace.